Hello, I'm Chelsea Poe, and you are listening to my podcast, The Performers Pod. If you're new here, this is a space for performers to talk about our industry in a real way that we usually aren't given in the press. This is one of my favorite people in porn I'm interviewing today. It's Rooster. You might know them from Sluts for Sluts. You might know them from all their activism around creating more consenting adult sets and just making porn an overall better place. First, if you want to support this pod, you can become a monthly member of my Patreon. It's patreon.com/ChelseaPoe. So a little bit about the podcast today. Hello Rooster is an intersectional feminist performer who has led the push for creating performers' bill of rights and guidelines around consent on set. We talk about art porn in Berlin and how influential it has been on both of us, their work with Sluts for Sluts, and the first time we met in London after someone threw a bottle of piss at me when I was lost. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. I'm so excited to have Rooster here today. You're honestly one of the most genuine, nicest people I met in this whole industry.
Thank you.
Like, there's so much like craziness I feel like that goes on in the porn industry, and you have people in it for all different reasons, and like people can be like really hostile, and there's all this like kind of politics that can get caught up in it. And honestly, out of the whole porn industry, you're one of the most genuine people I've ever met. And I just really adore what you're doing. And I first met you actually at your house. It was in London after the porn film festival there.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm trying to remember it. I think I remember. Yeah, so I lived in this sex worker, queer, trans, POC house in South London. If that's the one I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was such a hub. And yeah, we were trying to kind of create something which went well to a certain degree, but then life happened and people left.
Yeah, it was I felt like my entire night in London, because I had a separate screening from the porn film festival there. We were like trying to epically find your place, and we were like ringing on like people's like apartments, and they were like, "You need to go away and stop ringing apartments late at night." It was only like 9 or something, but like it felt like this like massive search across all of London to like get there.
Yeah, I feel like it was in a very kind of, would I say middle class, like, yeah, kind of like, yeah, lower middle class, middle class kind of area in South London. And yeah, a lot of uppity people who were on our street or neighbors. And yeah, it was, even though a lot of kind of queer people were moving, because it's very far outside of London, a lot of queer people were moving to those kind of parts because the center of London was so expensive. Yeah, we still kind of like got a lot of what's the word, pushback from invading into like uppity middle class communities. Yeah, and 9 o'clock is so early, but yeah, you have.
Yeah, so during the process of this, someone threw a bottle of piss over a fence at us.
Oh no!
Yeah,
What?
it like narrowly missed us. I was in a group of like 3 people, and yeah, that was like my first night in London, like exploring the
Oh
city.
my God! I'm so
So
sorry
much
for you.
fun. But, so did you get into porn in London?
Um, I'm trying to remember, how did I get into porn? I feel like it's been such a long time.
Yeah, when did you start?
So I think I remember, yeah, it was like late 2016.
Okay.
Um, uh, I mean, I was mostly doing escorting uh, prior to that, and I had a lot of sex worker friends, and sexuality and exploring my sexuality and porn and sex positivity always kind of like interested me. And I think, like working as a sex worker at a time, uh, out of like financial need, and then I think much later on it wasn't so much out of financial need,
Mhm.
or wasn't financially dependent, um but at the beginning it was, and then this kind of, when I started around 2016, there seemed to be this kind of rise of um queer POC porn and stuff, like a kind of would I say re-insurgence or something, a kind of revitalization, and yeah, I just wanted to kind of be part of that. I always kind of admired the Berlin Porn Film Festival,
Mhm.
always seeing it from afar and always wanting to go and visit. But one of the things that I saw that they were lacking in their screenings was a lot of kind of people that I felt represented, representation of my identity.
Yeah.
So like POC, um, trans, non-binary, and queer, on their screens. So I felt there was a little bit of lack there. So I thought, uh, yeah, maybe I could go and help, be, part of that, in Berlin. And I also admired a lot of Pink Label stuff, like uh, Crash Bad and Shine Louise Houston's kind of work. And actually, before starting in the industry, that year or that summer, uh, Shine Louise Houston and Jiz Lee had like a it's this weird word. I'm trying to remember the word. But they had some sort of exhibition at the Tate Modern, a major kind of art gallery in London, and I went there. Oh yeah, this was the term. It was called a pedagogy, or whatever fancy pedag.
Interesting. I have no idea. Way over my head.
I feel like, or when I looked up the term pedagogy or whatever, um, it's like a kind of, don't quote me on this, but I feel it's like a kind of is it educational, something educational, something, um but yeah, they kind of like labeled their work like a pedagogy of, like, I think, sex and intimacy and like porn, and it was kind of looking at it from a pedagogy kind of lens,
Hmm.
um and meeting Shine and stuff, and then um and yeah, like just kind of seeing their work in, I guess, this institution, um uh this, modern art institution. And Tate also has like a classical art institution, was quite interesting. And then later on that year, I think, yeah, in October, heading to Berlin, 2016, October 2016, heading to Berlin for the Porn Film Festival. That was kind of my introduction into porn. I had uh, some friends who were really well-known performers, Parker Marks and Lena, who I didn't know at the time.
Nina
Um,
Bembe?
yeah, Lena Bembe. Um, but there was a company called, I'm trying to remember their name now. um, I can't remember their name, or it will come to me. But they were like a husband and wife duo, very small company from Australia, and
Oh, yeah, I
they,
know who you're talking about. Oh,
yeah, It will come to me. They were shooting. They wanted to shoot like a threesome scene focused on like like women's pleasure and stuff like that, and they wanted it to be like a bisexual kind of male kind of scene and stuff like that. But I think because a lot of stereotypes or not stereotypes, a lot of stigma within the industry about bisexuality, but particularly I think within I think straight porn and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That I think a lot of performers shied away from that, but I entered into the industry to kind of like I guess shatter that.
Yeah, also
Um,
coming in through the industry, like through Berlin, is like such a you're not that's so overtly queer. I feel like it's such a difference, because you're the first person actually from Europe who I've interviewed on here, and I really want to try to get views about the industry from all around. I feel like the Berlin like porn scene and what the film festival means is like it's such an artistic view of porn as compared to like what's in the United States and like LA, where it's just so glossy. You want all the angles, you want to see penetration. In Berlin, like there's so many things that you almost wouldn't even can traditionally even think of as porn that are represented as porn.
yeah, that's what I really loved about viewing from the outside in at the Berlin Porn Film Festival. What really excited me was, yeah, there were, porn in so many different ways, and it wasn't just always about sex. There was porn through animation, like stop frame animation, like 2D, 3D animation. There was documentary. There was fiction. It was like explored in so many ways, and it wasn't always reliant on like set like a yeah, it was very different expressive ways, and I was just like, wow, this um and I treated it like a film festival. It's on for
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
feel like a week of screenings from the afternoon to like late to and like
Yeah, it's
2
12 hours
a.m.
of
or
streaming
something.
every single day. So
Yeah, and I made sure to go to those getting there around like midday and going to trying to see as much films for at least what 6 7 days or 8 days, like going trying to see as many films as possible. And yeah, never feeling once kind of like, oh, I've seen too much sex and stuff like that,
yeah,
because it wasn't just always about sex.
yeah,
There was different expressions of that.
yeah. It's really. I don't think I would still be in porn if I didn't go to the Berlin Porn Film Fest because it really like in the United States, porn is like obviously it's a huge industry and you have events like AVN and stuff, but it doesn't really appreciate the actual medium of porn like Berlin. Like you're going to see full sex scenes in front of an entire crowd of people and then have a Q&A about that sex scene. That doesn't usually happen in the United States, and like how porn is depicted here. Even like your biggest stars aren't getting like that treatment of their work. And I feel like it
Mm,
puts so much importance on like the actual medium of porn. I think that's why it's like so important.
yeah. Just having the performers, knowing performers and directors and crew and the rest of the cast on a different level, like humanizing them and seeing them at Q&As, or seeing them just as part of the festivals and
Yeah.
going to other screenings and supporting other people's work was great. It takes away that stigma of porn and humanizes performers. And I met so many people that I admired and idolized. I met you, who I
Like you're
had.
the first one, and that was like one of the coolest experiences. Being like, wait, so you guys all make porn? Wait, you all have like good politics about this stuff, and you hate
Yeah,
this shit? And it's like, wow, I'm not alone. Like in the United States, I felt like I was crazy because I was like, yeah, like I want to speak about anti-fascism and stuff and make porn and like do it like really explicit weird arty stuff. And I didn't
yeah,
feel that way until I went to Berlin and I saw stuff like fuck the fascism, who's like literally to create
yeah.
you're
Oh
like
my
fascist
god,
serious? I'm like,
that
you're the coolest thing in the world. Like
yeah, that the yeah. those filmmakers are amazing. Like just going to different cities and just fucking, like fascist statues or like desecrating, fascist monuments and stuff like that.
So
And
great.
literally like using sex, yeah, like having sex in these, monuments that have a lot of colonial or brutal history behind them, but it's still there, and being like, fuck you, fascism, which is fucking incredible. And even I think during, was it that, or a few times they've organized those kind of uh, filming events at different festivals. Like I think maybe that first year I was at the Berlin Film Festival, they in 2016 they organized like, okay, let's go around Berlin and like desecrate some fascist kind of
It's so
um
great, and it's just
yeah.
like so needed. I feel like there needs to be that, like
And I mean,
graphic
seeing
porn.
your film, I've seen like a few of your films where again like the way you've also I can't remember the name of it, but you kind of go from different like I think Berlin to somewhere in Denmark, and you're talking about I think Trump coming into power and stuff, and
Oh
um,
yeah, my documentary thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
like that
yeah, the
was,
storm.
yeah, that was incredible. And again, I saw it at one of the festivals, and I was just like blown away how again there's like so many incredible filmmakers, and having like a degree in filmmaking and being inspired by so many incredible talented artists. I was just like, wow, this is so like amazing. This needs to be given much more of a platform.
Yeah, I just love that there's so many different queer people making such cool stuff in that, like, particularly in like the Berlin scene, is everyone sees each other's stuff as opposed to like the United States where you can be nominated up against 10 people and you're all in the same category and none of you've seen each other's work, and it's just a very different experience. I just feel like the whole scene in all of Europe just has this like very we can just do it on our own kind of thing, and really just
Yeah,
making cool stuff that doesn't have to fit in any specific box. You were
yeah.
involved in one of those collectives, Sluts for Sluts. I feel like made so much cool stuff when you were doing that.
Yeah. So yeah, what Chelsea said, where, coming I was, yeah, living in this kind of queer sex worker house in South London, and out of that house kind of grew like a collective called Sluts for Sluts, where we, yeah, made some DIY films, um yeah, DIY porn films, and we're kind of on a break now. Maybe we might come back, but yeah, it was a really great time. But again, it's very, it is difficult to kind of keep the energy rolling and stuff where, we are, yeah, I mean, currently we're in a pandemic, but life just also just hits at you in so many ways. But it was great during that time, like the films that we were able to make and the people we were able to meet. We collaborated with Chopper Films and did a few films with them. So yeah, it was really incredible.
Yeah, we did a screening tour together. Actually, I have a poster of one of our screening dates on the wall right here.
Oh,
Yeah, it was so much fun to screen with you guys because you guys have like I just loved your guys' work so much, and yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I feel like the whole pandemic has kind of stopped the entire industry. Have you? When's the last time you were on set?
Um, Shooting porn a while ago, but also because of like various other reasons, which maybe we can go into
Yeah, if you'd like
later.
to, you can definitely.
Um, but yeah, I think it's been. I mean, I've been focusing more on self-produced work instead of I think when I first kind of came into the industry 2016, where again like my first um shoot was with this small company, Bright Desire,
Mm.
um and I thought a lot of the work I would get and stuff would, or I was, or what I had, my idea of the industry then was either there's like small companies and kind of work towards the bigger companies. Um, and a lot of what I was surrounded around was, yeah, a lot of like feminist ethical porn um, companies. So, you know, maybe the bigger ones to work my way towards was, you know, like Erika Lust and stuff like that. And then kind of, I don't know, at some point realizing, you know, along the way, it's maybe much not harder, but there's not enough consistent work to even just solely rely on uh, those big companies because they're not even big as they seem. Um,
There's a lot of posturing, I feel like.
yeah. Like what you see from the outside, they might seem very big, but they're actually fairly small and stuff. And um, starting to invest more into, yeah, self-made and DIY stuff, which is how Sluts for Sluts kind of came out, and you know, working for other amazing productions and stuff, or collaborating, yeah, like with Trouble Films and other people. And now also, particularly now, focusing on more content share or content trade or self produced work rather than yeah. So I guess when was the last time I went on set was maybe one of my own smaller productions, like I think, yeah, 6 months ago, when there was like a window of no pandemic. Well, it wasn't no pandemic, but it was more like, okay, it's the summer and maybe the heat will kill all the COVID stuff, so we can all go out for a few months. But then, yeah, we soon realized that was wrong. But yeah, I uh, shot some stuff with a few performers, like some fairly new performers. Um, but also like an amazing performer that I've always wanted to work with, but never thought I'd get the chance to. Sasha Day. We
Oh
worked
yeah.
together like last uh, during the summer last year, which was like incredible. Um,
Was that like your dream scene, or do you have like anyone
yeah, like
you really want to work with?
yeah, like we it all kind of it all just kind of came together on the day, like a little bit before the day and on the day. It was very kind of self produced and self made, but like what came out of it was like really incredible. And um the energy from her and stuff, like I really loved our kind of dynamic and stuff. I think we did like 4 scenes in one day.
Oh my
we were
god!
even we were even pushing for like 5.
Wow, you got
uh,
that's a hell of a content trade day.
yeah, yeah, and I was surprised at myself, but like we worked really well, and it wasn't even like draining. It was, yeah, it was fairly easy. And I'm surprised how much content we kind of made, and very a lot of variety. And yeah, there were a lot of kind of kinks and stuff that I like to explore in my personal life that we were able to do. And then um the same for her and stuff. And then I think, yeah, there was we were gonna do another thing, but then we were like, oh, does that, are you even allowed to do that on on like clips sites and stuff? Is it like
Yeah,
one of the banned content? So yeah.
yeah, it's varies so much lately. Like every clip site is revising, I think like weekly. So it's I don't know. I've just been like posting whatever I've been posting, and then if it gets taken down, I kind of deal with it then. But
Yeah,
it's so hard to keep track, honestly.
yeah. um yeah, so that was the last time on set. I would say like relatively 6 months
Wow.
ago. But I'm also planning something with Pandora Blake, um to do like a, again, like a kind of queer, maybe decolonized kind of spanking
Oh
scene,
wow, that's amazing.
which is really interesting. And we've been kind of like plotting and like, oh, how do we do something like that?
Pandora is such a great person to work with there.
Yeah.
Honestly, so amazing. I worked with them last time I was in the UK, and it was just such a great experience. They're like, I feel like I've always been really into BDSM, so I've like known about them for I feel like a decade, and they like in a scene like live up beyond that, where it's just like, wow, I'm working with Pandora Blake right now. This is amazing.
I mean, I feel like I was like that with you when we worked together. I was like, oh my God, like someone that I've just like admired and crushed on. And yeah, what like Twitter crush was what the film,
Yeah.
which is, like it was, like, I mean, it was before Twitter that I admired your work and stuff. So, and then to find, yeah.
Yeah, I've been like, I've definitely had a few Starstruck scenes as well when you like work with people who are like legit famous. When I worked with Bailey J, that was like, fuck. Like even just being in the room with her, I was like, oh my god, she's so pretty.
Yeah,
What is
it's
your favorite place to shoot?
favorite. It's I don't know what I could say favorite place to shoot, but I've definitely shot in some odd places. I've shot in a so like in the UK, like we have sometimes like you might just randomly, there's like little parks or little green spaces like down a side street or behind some buildings, behind some houses that you wouldn't even think there was a green space. And sometimes some of those green spaces have an old cemetery that is not used anymore, or has been disused for many years and stuff, and it's just been turned into this green space. So I worked on this project for this film called Tribute, um, directed by Max Disgrace and
Mhm.
starring Max Disgrace and Lena Bembe, and it was in this disused like slash abandoned uh, cemetery, but also which has a history as being a kind of queer cruising
Oh,
space and stuff like that, and has a lot of history around another film. It was a tribute to, I'm trying to remember the film. I'll do a little Google and find out the film, but there was this film which our film is a tribute to, about a kind of like lesbian cruising spot, queer porn thing. So our film kind of replicates that, and kind of Max, who's non-binary trans, and Lena and stuff, and this kind of cruising, queer cruising thing, which and it was very interesting shooting there, and having to pause a few times whilst we filmed to kind of like patrol the area and make sure no dodgy people were like who were trying to either interrupt our shoot, or who were trying to, I don't know. I mean, there were some people who were spying but were keeping the distance, and which was great. But those who were being a bit too, so yeah, that was very interesting.
yeah,
Like,
like sex club etiquette, where it's like you can be, but not that close.
yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, step back a little bit.
Then there's I've shot in like a back of, I is it a convertible? Maybe not a convertible, but it was definitely some sort of sports car with Bishop Black, where it was like a sex ed film, but it was like in this two-seater sports car
Wait,
where
what?
yeah, it's me, Bishop Black, but then it's the director, the sound person, and the camera person. So all five of us in this two-seater, and me and Bishop are still supposed to have sex in this two-seat. So they were kind of in the boot the three, the director and the camera person and the sound person. I don't know how it worked, but
Wow.
somehow managed to. And luckily it was parked, but it was also parked in the back the back of some flats, some houses with not that many lights, and we were like, yeah, it was kind of like
Wow, that is
half scaring, half like, okay, what's going?
wow. So that is like out in the world somewhere. You and Bishop Black like sex scene in like a sports car.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, just to say, yeah, the film that we a tribute to was um Annette Kennelly's Sex Lies Religion
Oh,
film
okay.
from 1993. Um, yeah.
The best decade.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we all just want to go back and see.
Yeah. So I felt those are some memorable kind of, places.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
see, I just like being in places where like I know there's a lot of other porn being made. So like Berlin Porn Week, like shooting during that, shooting during ABN where you're like, wow, there's hundreds of other people shooting right now. I'm also doing it. Like I love that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's a
Yeah.
bunch of porn being made right
Yeah, and just the excitement of also being able to see that porn that's being made. Like you can, like there've been time, yeah, like I've met people after they've shot some stuff, maybe when we kind of come back to the screenings or the cinema, and then you just see the smiles on their faces, and you're like, oh, what did you get up to and stuff, and then they describe the scene and stuff, and you're like, oh, I really wish I could see it, and then you have to wait like a few months, and then when you see it, like, okay, yeah, I get why you had that smile on your face. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been really like inspired to edit during Berlin, where I'm like there and then I see a film and I'm like, oh shit, I need to get on my shit because I'm just so inspired by it. I'm just like, there's so many cool people making porn right now. I want to work on more porn.
Yeah. um I mean, so I always have this juggle between like wanting to see all these incredible films, but then also knowing that this is the one time when there's, so many incredible people descend for, this 1 week or 1 week and a half in town where you get to collaborate and shoot content with them. So you're like, okay, I really want to see this film by this incredible filmmaker and this person I admire, but then I also want to shoot content with this incredible person that I admire, and so you're like always kind of like having to your choose between hard what dilemmas or hard choices.
I feel like the coolest part about the Berlin Porn Film Festival is I feel like it's equally like people who aren't porn performers who like just really like porn and
Mm,
this is their vacation to go to a bunch of porn and like go to clubs and do that crazy thing. And
yeah,
then there's like production companies and like producers and directors who go into Berlin that week and they're like, I'm gonna make a movie.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
can really do so
yeah,
many things there, and I think it's like such a special thing where
yeah.
there's
And
not anything like it in the world.
yeah, like, and it holds like a special place in my heart because that is where I made my first scene, like my first porn scene, and then going my introduction into this world and stuff, and then going back again and again, and um, it kind of being like a place of family and stuff like that, and community. And in a way, I feel like because of various other issues, I felt like I've almost lost the part of community because yeah, I no longer, not that I no longer have the Berlin Porn Film Festival, but some things have kind of changed for me where yeah, it's not like it was for me in the past. But I'm I think it's still like a great place, for so many other people to, experience. And yeah, there's a lot of kind of like amazing films and content being made and amazing people passing through. Um, yeah, and I'm just like, it fills my heart with so much joy that knowing, so many people are going to be there, but also a lot of like, not FOMO, but when I know I can't participate. I mean, not that I can't participate. I'm not banned from the festival, but yeah, I've kind of like, I think I closed the chapter. Was it not last year? I think 2 years ago, I kind of closed the chapter of ever kind of like going to the Berlin Porn Film Festival again, which was, was a sad kind of time, part of my life. But it was also like a necessary decision for so many other reasons, not particularly for the Berlin Porn Film Festival, but for
Like
others.
more similar sponsors.
Yeah.
I've
But
been in many situations where I'm like, I like this space, but you're taking money from people who I personally have some disagreements with.
yeah, but I think like it's still like incredible, and like I think there's great kind of content and people. It's a great space for people, especially because London Porn Film Festival was trying to be like that, but London as a city is not like Berlin, where there is cheap venues, or not even cheap venues, or there is like venues for um events like this to happen. And then London as a city is so large that it's hard to even travel places, and and expensive and stuff. And Berlin, I feel, is like such a special kind of thing. And I've there are a few other like festivals I've been to around the world, but also in Europe, that are similar vibe, but maybe to Berlin, but maybe smaller, like Le Fait du Slip in Switzerland. Um, uh, yeah, Hot Bits in Philadelphia. Um, yeah, I
Yeah, I
feel
feel
like.
like there's now almost like this whole circuit of festivals now.
Mm,
And it's like if you don't want to be involved with one, you can be involved with two other ones almost.
yeah,
It feels like
yeah,
um I feel like even when I would first started like doing screenings in Europe, like I guess 4 years ago now, it felt like it was usually you had to do it yourself or know a promoter. And now it feels like it's mostly just festivals where there's nearly every European city, it feels like it's starting to have their own festival where it's like,
mm,
okay, there's the one in Poland, there's the one in Vienna, there's the one in
yeah,
Switzerland, there's the one in Rome, there's the one in Nice. Like it really feels like it's just
mm,
kind of become a all over thing, which it's gonna be interesting to see how it lasts after the pandemic and everything.
yeah,
Also,
yeah. Which is
oh, go
so
on.
go ahead.
Oh, also, just what happens to Berlin? Like, are these super cheap rents gonna stay after this whole pandemic thing?
Yeah,
You know, Germany is not in a great spot with the vaccination, so it's like, will that scene still exist whenever life returns
yeah,
to normal?
yeah. It's. I have a lot of anxiety about the future and stuff, and about queer porn and queer community, and the possibility of this bubble, this kind of like resurgence or whatever happened, where like there were all of I think and maybe a little bit before, but definitely 2016 when I was entering the industry. There was like the festival in Vienna and all of these festivals popping up and stuff, and it was like amazing. And now to kind of, and they were just kind of getting more and more people and funding, like Le Feu du Slip got funding from the Swiss government and stuff like that. um yeah, all of these kind of things. Hot Bits was growing year by year, and started to have screenings in other, not just in Philadelphia, but all along like the East Coast and stuff.
Their full plan for 2020 was basically all in North America. Like Austin was on it, like multiple
Yeah,
in Canada, like Nashville. Like it was really, I
yeah,
almost feel like queer porn right before the pandemic, it was getting so big that it was like, I
yeah,
don't know what the cap for this whole thing is gonna be. Is it gonna be like,
yeah. It looked so promising, and now that the pandemic has hit and things have moved online, not so much successfully, or I think people are struggling to kind of get into the groove of things, and I think some people have found their footing, um, but now things are easing off, and now people have to find their footing back into the real world. It's kind of like now that we kind of come back from a virtual space to back into a more physical present space, who has kind of suffered, and how do yeah, what is the transition, what are things going to pan out and stuff like that, and whether too many people have burnt out, or have mental health, or affected in different ways, or yeah, or don't have the income or whatever to kind of pursue it anymore. I have a lot of anxiety for the future of what of that.
I feel like I have hope in one thing and
Mm,
one thing only. Everyone who's still in this has more of a way to self-produce now, because I feel like the one thing
yeah,
during the pandemic has taught us is these studios aren't going to be there when there's real shit going on, because they're going to be like, well,
yes,
we're cutting productions, we're cutting directors, we're doing all this stuff, because in reality, when
yes,
we all come back, I think there's gonna be a lot more content trade. And I think that was happening before, where you can shoot a movie for, you pay for a nice hotel room if you want to make it look nice, pay $150, split it with your scene partner. You can shoot a full film out of 3 scenes.
mm,
Like, I feel like
yeah,
it's so different with things like mini vids now, and just
yeah.
there's so many more platforms than there were even when you
Now,
started in 2016.
yeah. Now that you say that, you've brought the hope back. Maybe because I'm a pessimistic. That's why I didn't see that. But now that you say that and you've highlighted that, I'm actually like, actually, yeah, so many people did OnlyFans and jumped on it, and in a way, like sex work was more normalized because a lot of
Yeah.
people who weren't doing it before and stuff, and maybe there is a lot more interest, or potential audience after the pandemic to kind of even be more into coming into those physical festivals and stuff, and also a lot more content has been produced and a lot more people know. So yeah, why am I full of so much anxiety? And
Because we're in a global pandemic.
true,
We're supposed to be. We're all supposed to be like very like.
I mean, thank you for opening my eyes. I like bet you're a godsend. Wow, yeah, it's like, wow, okay.
Maybe I'm just at a different stage because SF's at a different stage of this, where it's like all positive and stuff. But yeah, I feel like that there's now like a song that won a Grammy references OnlyFans, the Beyonce and Megan Thee Stallion song. And I'm
Yes.
like, and there's like Disney stars going on OnlyFans now. I feel
Mm,
like in the scheme of things, it doesn't matter, just like Caitlyn Jenner didn't matter. But like for people in like small towns who that's like their only depiction of sex
yeah.
work, it might be the thing that makes them be like, oh, yeah, it is pretty dumb we have like sex work criminalized.
Mm,
Maybe it should be decriminalized.
yeah.
Because
And I
my
mean, I was gonna say, like, I just saw a report today that, is it the whole of Manhattan district or something like that. Definitely, it was definitely in New York City. Um, that they're gonna stop. They're gonna wipe away, or potentially, I don't think they've decided. All the past kind of like sex work, not convictions, but like ones that were still kind of like in the system,
Hmm.
like waiting and stuff like this, and maybe not prosecute anymore. So like it's a in terms of decriminalization and a lot of things, like there's a lot of awareness and
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a city in actually my home state of Michigan that decriminalized sex work. The city of
Wow.
Ann Arbor, it's where the University of Michigan is. Yeah, they decriminalized sex work. I think it was maybe like 6 months ago. Is it right in the middle
Oh
of the
wow.
pandemic that they're
That's
like,
amazing.
yeah, we're not going after sex workers anymore. So
That's wow, that's incredible.
it feels like, I don't know. I'm hopeful that there's more hopeful stuff coming, hopefully.
Yeah. I
But
mean, thank you for opening my yeah, I didn't see it. Yeah, it's so hard to see when there's so much going
yeah, I think there is also a lot of reasons to be pessimistic. So I think it's
on.
both. Um, yeah, I'm like, I have no idea when I'll ever be able to go back to Europe again.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
that's another thing. It's like, yeah, I don't know when I can go back to Berlin. Like,
yeah,
as soon as, like, last year when we had this window during the summer, like, I think the month of August or whatever,
you
where
guys had
things
a
kind of opened up.
window. I had no
Yeah.
idea. We didn't have any.
Oh, okay. You,
We're just all bad until like you get vaccinated. Then last week, I'm like, oh wow, I can like go out to eat. That's crazy.
um, I literally left London, as you know, and went to Berlin for like about 6 weeks. I was just like, I'm got as soon as they kind of were like, okay, you can fly now. I was like, gone. Went to Berlin, caught up with everyone, and had my fill, and then had to come back because then they were shutting things again. So that was yeah, just before the Berlin Porn Film Festival and stuff.
Wow. I'm like, that sounds so amazing. The idea of like going to Berlin and like shooting. Wow. It's so amazing that you got to do this year. I haven't been on a porn set in over a year. I think we shot like February of 2009. No, 2020. So I think we're going
How's
back.
that been for you?
I think we're gonna get back in like 2 months.
Okay.
So
How's that been for you? Like
I've been shooting a lot of remote stuff.
okay.
I shot an entire like BDSM training thing over
Oh,
Zoom. We
oh
did like
wow.
different shoots and like the Dom like sent me packages and stuff.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
okay.
it was really fun. Definitely different, but I do webcamming, so it wasn't
Mm,
that big of a jump.
yeah.
What are some things that you want to do in your career that you haven't so far?
Um like sexually or just in general?
It could be anything. Yeah, it could be either one. If you want to take it deep, you can, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
You
because
don't need to go deep.
I guess because there was another question that you had, which I don't know whether this is the question or whether it's different, but it was like something like what is something that you wanted to try but haven't, or something like that, or is that a different question? Was that a different question?
I don't know if I asked that.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't think so. Maybe I did. Yeah, this could be like something that you like want to do in your work. Like if it's like you want to shoot a specific kind of porn, or if you want
Mm,
like loftier things to be like, I want to win this or screen here or do that.
yeah, I mean, I don't like my work has kind of segued into a very different space from when I entered the industry. Like that kind of first second year when I was in the industry, like was kind of, I don't want to say it kind of, I hit like a peak and now I'm like I came down, but I feel like it did kind of
I feel like we all
there
feel
was
that way.
um like yeah, like I made some like incredible films, uh had some awards, had like I think Heartthrob of the Year at like Toronto International Porn Film Festival and stuff like that. Yeah, there was like a lot of highs, I think, in what 2018 and stuff like that, from like the last 2 years of um my yeah, the beginnings of my career, and then things changed because of a traumatic thing in the industry, which I'm still like navigating, which has been going fairly well recently. but like because of that traumatic thing, I rediscovered I discovered this work called like intimacy coordination, which I'm now kind of focusing more in exploring. And an intimacy coordinator is, someone who oversees like intimate scenes in pornographic or non-pornographic films. That they're more known in non-pornographic film work
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
HBO has one in the States.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the reference point here, at least.
Mm. What, like Euphoria and
Yeah. It was.
yeah.
I think they have it for all their sex scenes now.
Yeah, it's like now a demanded, a requirement. Like actually, SAG-AFTRA, the union in the States for actors, it's if you're on any SAG-AFTRA set or whatever, yeah, it's required.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, there's been too many kind of traumatic abuse kind of things within, well, not just the porn industry, but like in life in general, that has been highlighted. And I think intimacy coordination, well, particularly for film, which is an area that I work in non-pornographic and pornographic film, um, can help maybe mitigate that.
Mhm.
Um, so that's a lot of the work that I'm exploring now, where I feel my work has kind of changed. I am still creating and making content, but I'm more selective of the content that I make, or not of the content that I make, but maybe more of the people I make it with. Um, I think I've always been selective of the content that I make, in general. Where the content that I've always strived when I first entered the industry was to be very uh, highlighting marginalized, queer people of color, um, trans and non-binary bodies in this particular area. Um, so any kind of work that I do, I try to kind of bring more representation of that. That there can be, black, queer, trans, non-binary um, performers in the industry, and that we do exist. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of focusing on, wanting to work with people that I really admire, and taking time, not just pursuing anything and everything. But I also understand I'm quite privileged in that position. Um, well, one, yeah, I'm quite privileged, but there was also a traumatic incident that kind of incited me to kind of, have to take a step back, uh, where I couldn't, yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where you're really
Mm,
just doing the things that you're fully committed to right now. Where
yeah.
it's like if you have a gig offered, you're gonna jump on it. Which some
Yeah.
people like, the people who do live fully as performers and they're like that's how they make their rent. Like I understand why you have to do that, but I feel
Mm,
the same where it's like I don't want to just jump into some like random straight scene that I maybe would have before because I'm just like, particularly post pandemic, I'm like, I don't want to, you know, do this risk for a usual rate for
mm,
like a scene I'm not fully committed to. I
mm,
think that's like what's so great about self-producing because you really, it's all
mm,
on you. Your value, what you value is going to be your project, and this is going to be the thing you're going to have to work
yeah.
with probably for the next 9 months. And you know, you kind of have to figure out what's right for you with it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, like I feel, yeah, the pandemic has really, yeah, helped me to figure that out, or made maybe some of the decisions that maybe I didn't want to make. It's made it for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, whether that be financial, whether that being, um, yeah, cutting off, yeah, like access to, job opportunities and stuff like that, because not being in particular countries and stuff, and having to figure out other means and stuff like that. Um, yeah, which has been good. Yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this whole pandemic, everyone has just basically been in the same place for so long. It really makes you figure out what you're doing stuff for and really your intentions, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone is kind of changed and has a different perspective after all of that, you know?
Mm.
So what do you think you're like most proud of from your career that you would like put up on a shelf right now? 'Cause you've accomplished a lot. You know,
Really?
and I mean, seriously, think your work has literally toured around the world. Like, that's really impressive. Like, it's not a thing that happens to everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe because most of the time, like, or one of my gripes, like, um because a lot of my experience before entering the industry was behind the camera. um I feel like sometimes, yeah, like performers are not appreciated as much. Like, there's definitely uh, directors, I feel, or production companies are given more fanfare than performers. Sometimes, or the majority of the times, depending.
I think particularly in like European porn, that's the case.
Yeah, and it's, even though we do get to do panels and stuff like that, sometimes, yeah, I feel like, you know, the directors take up, center stage and stuff, and performers or the rest of the crew are not recognized as much, or not given, you know. So yeah, like I guess, like I don't, that realization, or that kind of like, oh, actually, yeah, like a lot of my work has kind of like toured and stuff like that, but because that, I guess, realization of fanfare was not coming to me. It was either, uh, watered down from the director to me, whatever was left over, or even given notice, like, oh, the film screened here. They told me 2 months later, after the film
Yeah.
screened. Then it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know. Okay, it's gone. Like, um, yeah. So, but I am proud of that, and I'm proud of, uh, like, through one of through I think one of the big traumatic things that happened during my period in the industry um was which kind of then kind of prompted creating, and co-authoring uh guidelines and a code of conduct, slash model bill of rights, at Erika Lust Films. um I think that was really something that I'm proud of.
Yeah, that's super
Um,
important.
and I'm really proud of the work that Erica Lust and I recently, or since the last 6 months, we've been kind of in like a transformative justice mediation process,
Hmm.
which has been, I feel, after dedicating sometimes 3 hours a week, or sometimes 8 hours a week, to us just talking, um, and each kind of like exposing and sharing the hurt and pain that we've been through during our conflict over the last several years. Um, I don't know of any companies, or big companies, uh, at their level, who have been willing to kind of go through a process, especially a transformative justice process, um, regarding, allegations of harm or allegations of abuse or whatever, um, and try to repair that. And I'm really grateful that with the work that we've both done in trying to repair that harm, and hoping to try and repair the community harm and hurt that we've also impacted on the community. It's not complete, but there's hope to do
Yeah,
that.
there's at least
Um,
something there
yeah,
and some support
um,
that's going on.
yeah, but like the Model Bill of Rights, the Code of Conduct, the ethical guidelines at Erika Lust Films. I'm really proud of this mediation process and transformative justice. I'm really proud of, and then finally, this a chapter in a book called "We Two: Essays on Sex Work and Survival." I wrote a chapter about my experiences and my thoughts regarding ethical and/or feminist porn, which came out earlier this year, 2021, which I'm really, really proud of as well.
Do you
So,
think, yeah, I guess this is kind of a deep question, but do you think ethical porn, quote unquote, like the whole branding thing, do you think it should exist?
no, because I feel
I completely agree.
if well, like one, ethics is subjective,
Completely.
um, and to ethic to be ethical is an ongoing journey. You never arrive um, at ethical. It's not a destination. It's a continual strive. So to even label, it seems contradictory to me to label your porn ethical, because how
Yeah.
you cannot arrive at
I also feel like one of the other issues is like it overtly tries to pit what you're doing compared to like
mm,
mainstream porn,
yeah,
and then assuming what's going on mainstream sets. Well, there could be very good consent on this set because they have a female director and she used to be a performer. I feel like that dichotomy is something I hate so much. And I feel like,
yeah,
especially in like press about ethical porn, it's awful because they like make you want to be, they like want you to say it, basically be like, this porn is good, other porn is bad.
yeah, yeah. Like just by simply defining, you're saying, well, then everything else that is not ethical is bad. Yeah, like they're not ethical, which is like uh ethical is like one, yeah, subjective, and also like you can be feminist, but you could also be really shitty.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can.
um you know um you know yeah, like trans exclusionary,
Yeah.
racist, like,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
white feminist, so um yeah, and even mainstream porn could, could have like better pay and stuff like that. Like what, if you kind of like uh determine or define ethics as better pay and stuff like that, and mainstream porn which you've deemed as not ethical, but they are paying fairly and
Or
stuff,
yeah,
but
just
you as
more.
an ethical company are not, like, well, then who is the ethical one? So
Yeah, I feel like it's always the companies that are claiming ethics who are the ones who like then
yeah,
act like, oh well, we can't be doing anything bad, we're ethical. And I feel like that's almost been my duty going into interviews, is to be like, I need to just talk about how ethical porn isn't really a thing,
yeah,
it's just a
yeah,
branding thing. So
yeah,
thank you so much for talking. I have one more question for you.
yeah.
Everyone's taken this in a very different way. So let's say you could wake up tomorrow and one thing could magically be changed in porn. Totally solved, totally different. What would it be?
One thing for me, I think it's always like it has to be about trauma and abuse and like boundary violations and stuff like that, where I don't know, we give more I'm kind of torn by this question, whether we give more voice or more trust and more space for people who have been harmed, and more support, or whether, if you're saying if I have a wish to erase the any sort of like boundary violations ever occurring,
Yeah.
but then maybe that's maybe it's this me being my human, my not human, is it, where I'm so realistic, like I can't have that wishful thinking because
But
I'm so
I did say magically change it. So
yeah.
you're all right.
But even when you say that, I'm like so kind of like, my mind is like, magic doesn't exist, but it's like it refuses to even like be able to wish in like a paradise, or in which, as I said, I'm very pessimistic.
So
And I have a lot of self-work to do around that.
I feel like you have both though. I feel like your magic thing is there's always clear consent on porn
Yeah,
sets. No one's consent ever gets violated.
yeah,
That's great. That's
yeah,
possible. And then your realistic one is like more resources and victims are more
yeah.
listened to, and these things can be brought up.
Thank you.
Great,
Yes.
you did it. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I've
Thank
loved talking to you on this podcast for so long. I feel like we went through so many like really important topics. So thanks
No,
so much.
thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, it's always amazing chatting with you, and yeah, seeing you. And yeah, thank you.
Likewise.